If anyone asks why the RTS genre has failed, just show them this graph. 80% of players never go into multiplayer, which is weird because most RTS games coming out start with a focus on player versus player content. And as Giant Grant Gaming's video predicted, Company of Heroes 3 hasn't exactly been doing great. Apart from the obvious bugs, glitches, etc. that appear in every game launch no matter what, the biggest argument you could probably hand as Company of Heroes 3 is that it's just Company of Heroes 3, alongside a Total War campaign which doesn't have the same polish as a 20-year-old franchise. It's just a sequel, so the formula and conception of Company of Heroes needs something new. So here's an idea that no one has thought about: zombies. There were zombie mods for both Company of Heroes 1 and 2, so it's not like this is coming out of left field. Even then, they're basically just entire units with melee attacks and lots of cheap models. For an actual game company like Relic, you could have a prototype in a game jam or two. Furthermore, since the general archetype has already been laid out with stuff like Call of Duty Zombies, you already have a business plan out there that you can follow. Oh, and you also have They Are Billions, which is a bit too campy for my tastes, but it's not like there is no market for this thing. So, how could this play out? Well, here's a couple ideas. Okay, so some German scientists found a way to reanimate the dead somehow. As a group of commandos comes to investigate a facility, they realize that these reanimated corpses can be tougher and stronger than any human ever could. They take reduced damage from bullets, and they can't be suppressed, but they also can't take cover. This means that the one real way to deal with them is with explosives, so there has to be some kind of mechanic here, either something like XCOM where enemies don't drop loot if they've been exploded, or you try to establish munitions as being munitions, which you use for grenades, explosives, and bigger guns. For example, if a machine gun needs to be reloaded, it actually takes munitions from your munition pool. You could also apply a similar idea with tanks needing fuel, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. In any case, these commandos fight their way through the structure until they reach the heart of the facility where they find the one responsible, a Necromancer. This Necromancer, however, is changing sides, and Allied Command wants these commandos to take the Necromancer in alive, alongside any research material they can carry. As for what the zombies actually are, I don't want to suggest too much, but I feel like fungal or parasites is definitely in vogue because those are actually visible alterations that you can see on people. You can also turn the idea of fungus or parasites into bigger or sneakier units that could flesh out the zombie unit roster. You could also make it something from the ocean and give it links to Atlantis or Cthulhu, but I'd rather leave that up to an artist. With the Necromancer taken back to the Allies, they begin sharing the knowledge that the Axis powers have been developing over time, culminating in a new kind of undead army that can actually be controlled. As the war grinds on and Germany buckles under an Allied front, the differences between America and the Soviets becomes clearer and clearer. In this alternative history, the undead become a significant factor, with each side developing more and more powerful creatures to size up against the other. As this plays out, however, these elite necromancers get more and more ideas. If the world is becoming more dependent on them and their cheap labor, then surely they should have more of a say in how things should be. Eventually, this idea blossoms into the Necromancer revolutions, tearing down entire states and nations as the true masters and slaves take command of the world. With this new world order established, however, the Necromancers start fighting amongst themselves for control over the still living. The dead, surprisingly, have a short lifespan, something that the feuding Necromancers had little care or need for in wartime, where there were as many bodies as the battlefield could provide. But in peacetime, how could the dead be replaced? Wait for a new technology? Work the population to the grave? Whatever the solution, it would be solved by whoever stood on the biggest pile of corpses to feed into the grinder. So started the Graveyard Wars. I also had a couple of other ideas which might be relevant to Company of Heroes that you can find in the second half of my Dawn of War 3 video. For example, your barracks actually housing your infantry, and victory points working as off-map munitions. If you have any ideas of your own, then feel free to comment them down below and share this in your local Discord server. If I get enough support, then I might do a second part expanding on this idea.